and tasty. Come on, take a bite.
But no cigar. The reptiles just won't run.
A big part of the problem may very well be that it knows it's not a person.
How can it tell? Yeah.
Conditions are perfect. Crocs are the most active at this time of the year. And the humid, steamy weather means they shouldn't be sluggish.
No interest whatsoever.
I'm starting to feel extremely defeated. There's a run in my stockings and there's no crocodile running.
You know what they say about children and animals in the film industry.
You said it, Tori. Animal myths are notoriously difficult to bust. Remember skunk cleaning? Adam and Jamie set out to test a bunch of skunk smell home remedies. Only problem was, they couldn't get a skunk to kick up a stink.
Well, it doesn't work. Can we go now?
Back in Crocodile Alley, the test subjects are refusing to chase Buster's meat legs in a zigzag or any other configuration. Luckily, the MythBusters have a plan B.
We're actually going to take a quail and put it on my robot here. And this is a battle-ready combat robot. So if, unfortunately, an animal gets a hold of it in its jaws, it is built for combat, so it probably will stand up.
With its cargo of quail in place, Grant's robot sets out on its mission. Looking like the Mars rover, it parks near the edge of a pool, well within striking distance. Grant's poised to hit the accelerator at the first crocodilian quiver. But apparently, this croc doesn't feel like Meals on Wheels.
We're having a hard time getting this crocodile to come to the surface of the water, so I'm going to try to entice it with some quail, and I'm just going to drop it right in front of his nose, or her nose.
Tori ventures close and throws the bird. Nothing. Not a ripple.
I don't think he's coming out the water.
Well, the trainers here say that they're naturally secretive animals, and what's more, they're not stupid.
Yeah, he seems pretty spooked by your robot.
No response to the rig, no response to the robot. You can't say the MythBusters aren't trying.
You know, those crocodiles seem like they're slow on land, but shooting out of the water, they're lightning.
Well, actually, I've done a little bit more research, and it turns out in almost every crocodile or alligator attack, since they've been keeping records, the victim has been in or near the water.
Well then, what are the rules to avoid being chomped?
First, if there are any warning signs, don't go in the water. Second, if you fall into the water, get out as quickly as possible. And third, never ever dangle your legs or arms over the side of the boat.
I think we can handle these rules.
There's only one thing left. Plan C. That's C for crazy. Tori's gonna put his behind on the line and get a croc to chase him instead. Tori, Carrie, and Grant have been wrestling with the myth that crocodiles can't run in a zigzag. So far, they haven't been able to coax a croc into running at all. You know what they say about desperate times and desperate measures.
We've tried everything to get these crocodiles to chase the food, but apparently nothing's working. So we're going to try a different approach. We're going to try to see if we can get them to chase us out of aggression. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually suit up with some protective gear, get in there, try to agitate the crocodiles, and see if they'll chase me.
Tori's going out on a limb. Let's just hope all his are still there when it's over.
So let's say one of them does get a hold of my leg. What will you do to break that hold?
I will do everything I can to ease your pain as quickly as possible.
He has a stick.
And this is actually more for
knock me
you.
out with the
Yes,
stick.
exactly. The quicker you lose consciousness, the better off it is for you. Yes.
Tori's legs will be well protected. Unfortunately, the heavy padding will also slow him down.
Wait, the safety protection caused me to fall down. Protective gear is hindering me from running away from the crocodile.
Nevertheless, he's ready for a face-to-face croc confrontation. The Johnston's crocodile is found in Australian waters. It's smaller than the Cuban croc, but fast and fiercely territorial.
So this is the first test, chasing Tori with the Johnston crocodile.
What do you think's going to happen?
I think you can catch him.
Okay, so according to you guys, having someone's mouth pressed against the trombone will make it a sealed system. Expanding gases from the explosion will no longer be able to escape through the mouthpiece. They'll have nowhere to go but through that slide. Right, you asked for it. Adam and Jamie are going to take it again from the top.
Look at all those trumpets.
Did you play the trumpet?
No.
Weren't you a bugler in the Civil War?
Once again, the guys go trawling for trombones. Second hand, of course.
They're perfect.
They also need some mouthpieces. And some mutes.
Unfortunately, this is the last note this trombone will ever play.
Trust Adam to turn a trombone into an instrument of torture. Question is, will they still be able to blow their own trumpet when this revisit's done?
Finger in a barrel. I knew we were going to have to revisit this one. That's the one where a gun barrel can explode into a banana peel, just like in the cartoons.
This one's well worth a revisit, if only so we can catch up with our friends, the Mythtoons. They're a gun barrel of laughs. When our familiar foes come face to face, there's plenty of animated animosity. But instead of saying his prayers, our cheeky red-haired rodent forces his finger into the barrel, and the hunter's best-laid plans backfire big time. The Mythbusters tried to get the same result in real life. They took modern rifles and plugged ballistics gel fingers into the barrels. The bullets won, hands down.
Look at the very tip
I'll
of the
be
barrel.
darned.
And while they got one or two bulges in their barrels, nothing could trigger that famous cartoon banana peel.
I don't want to count our chickens before they hatch, but I think we may end up revisiting this one.
Well, Adam, those chickens have now hatched, and they're coming home to roost. Since busting the myth, fans have been firing a volley of suggestions.
First, we should try this. It's an older gun with a Damascus barrel.
And what is that?
Well, up until the 20th century, they were making Damascus barrels, and that's where they would take alternate strips of steel and iron, twist it around a rod, and then weld it together. So it wasn't one piece of metal.
Okay, so let's get that straight. A Damascus barrel was made by taking strips of iron and steel and welding them together. According to fans, those weld points weaken the structure, and if the barrel is blocked, they'll give us our cartoon peel back.
Oh, it looks like I need to go dig out the hand molds we used last time.
And I'll work on a remote trigger, because if this does indeed work, it could very well explode.
While the guys get to work, let's revisit the science behind this cartoon caper. Pull the trigger of a gun, and there's a small explosion. The expanding gases propel the bullet through and out the barrel. Block the barrel, however, and the gas has nowhere to escape. The pressure builds, and gun ruptures. Some fans might rupture too when they see what the Mythbusters are going to do with this collector's item.
Boy, you better marry my daughter.
This 10-gauge shotgun had both barrels fashioned Damascus style.
This one was made in 1877, so it's an antique. And we're gonna destroy it.
Grant mounts the shotgun on Jamie's special rifle rig and wires up a remote trigger.
I have a radio control system that transmits a wireless signal to the receiver. The receiver sends a control signal to the servo. It's going to turn the head of the servo, which pulls a string. The string goes around the trigger and is captured on the other side by a hose clamp, and then that fires the gun. 3, 2, 1. There you go.
Meanwhile, you gotta hand it to Carrie. She's got hand-making down pat.
So here we have a ballistics gel hand with a skeleton cast inside. It's been sitting up overnight, and the nervous part is over because it came out of the mold and looks all right.
Have you heard the one about the Dyslexic Philosophers Convention?
No.
The topic of discussion is there a dog?
What are you going on about?
It's time. We're doing an all dogs Mythbusters dog special. We have been inundated with myths from the fans and on the website, and now it's time to put them into a show.
Okay, it sounds like fun.
Yeah. Okay, here's what I see. It's another in a long line of adages, like, Rolling Stone gathers no moss and finding a needle in a haystack. We should test the myth that you can't teach an old dog new tricks. You ready, old dog? Let's go.
man's best friend. They're smart, they're talented, and crucially, they're quick to pick up new tricks. But the question is, are our canine companions learning days behind them when they reach old age?
What's that you say? What's the plan? Excellent question. I think it's pretty straightforward. I think we bring in a couple of dogs and we see if we can teach them some tricks.
Well, they got to be old dogs, because after all, that's what this is about. Maybe we can each take one, we'll train them separately.
They should be also as close in age as possible. I mean, preferably they're from the same litter, couple of brothers, brother and sister, something like that.
And we can do some kind of, like, a dog show. What do you think?
A MythBusters dog show at the end? That's perfect. Let's do it.
And just as perfect are these beautiful old dogs, Bobo and Cece, an untrained 7-year-old brother and sister pair.
Bobo and Cece appear to be Alaskan Malamutes. Now, this breed is notoriously difficult to train. They're headstrong. So, you know, if we can train these old dogs, this being the worst case scenario, we should be able to train any old dogs. Mush.
Adam and Jamie have just 1 week to get these homeless fur balls pulling in the right direction. So they're going to need some expert help. Adam and Cece have enlisted dog trainer Beverly Ulbrich.
So what we've got is somewhat of a contest between Jamie and I, and what I need your help with is to get Cece here to learn how to heel, sit, stay, down, and shake hands all in the next week. Can we do that?
I sure hope so. Let's give it a shot. Bling bling here.
With her shiny new training collar, Cece is ready for lesson number 1, heeling.
So the idea with the walk is you want the dog paying attention to you, not everything else around you. If you think about like how a pack travels, there's one pack leader and the rest of the dogs are behind it just following naturally and easily. And obviously right now she's trying to be that pack leader.
Beverly's theory about dog training is to let them know you're the pack leader. So it's all about conditioning the dog both positively and negatively in ways that the pack leader would do. You give them affection when they do right, you give them a scruff on the neck, just like the pack leader would do when they do wrong. And as long as you repeatedly do that, and you do that exactly when they're doing stuff right and exactly when they're doing stuff wrong, they'll become much more manageable, because they all want to be part of a team.
That's the theory. And for old dog Cece, it seems to be working. Already, she's surprisingly well-heeled, which begs the question,
How old is old when it comes to dogs?
Well, how old is old when it comes to people? It's pretty subjective. However, the best estimates that the vet has is that Bobo and Cece were born about 7 years ago, which in human terms, for their size, makes them approximately 50 years old.
That'd be about in the butter zone for our test.
Indeed.
outside and school starting for old dogs Jamie and Bobo. And head teach Gene Donaldson from the SPCA confirms we're starting from scratch.
Bobo, can you sit? He probably has never been taught. He's looking at his mates, will be saying it in Swahili. He has no clue.
Now it's over to the good, the bad, and the ugly. I'll let you decide who's who.
Okay, so lockpick of death, what is that?
This one's actually an airbag myth. Scenario is a guy's breaking into a car using one of those flat lockpicks. Triggers the side airbag. The airbag explodes, launching the lockpick through his skull.
Sweet. Sweet.
It's another story from that font of urban legend, the famous MythBusters fan site. A would-be car thief is using a lockpick to break into a car. While poking around inside the door, he unwittingly triggers the side airbag, which expands with such force the lockpick becomes a missile, and the thief suddenly finds himself picking his own brain. Get ready for a MythBuster tale full of exploding airbags, skullduggery,
As long as they're legal, we're happy.
and udon noodles.
Well, that looks a little like brain, doesn't it? Well, I think we should learn, first of all, how to pick a car lock. Do either of you know how to do that already?
No.
Well, short of getting a criminal, I think maybe we should see if a fireman can help us out, because I know they have to pick locks to get into cars.
The guys are going on a fact-finding mission.
We need to learn how to use a lockpick, and we hear you can teach us.
Well, we do have some cars over here, and we do have some tools. Let's see if we can actually get in.
Excellent. Let's do it.
Cool.
At the Livermore Pleasanton Fire Department's training facility, firemen do take lock-picking lessons. And while we're not allowed to show you how it's done, the MythBusters take careful note of the technique.
All right, Matt, you want to give it a shot?
Sure.
So you are leaning directly over the lockpick as you're trying to get in the car.
It's worth noting, too, that these guys don't practice this on vehicles with side airbags, just in case.
I mean, if you were leaning over that tool and the airbag went off, I could see how that thing would launch up into your neck.
This demonstration shows that a person using a lockpick would be in the correct position to be impaled.
He's almost got it.
Hey! Outstanding.
Nice.
Excellent.
But would an airbag really go off with a big enough bang to send that tool through your skull?
We have a driver's airbag out of a small vehicle, and I put a traffic cone on it so we can see it a little bit better going up in the air, and we're going to launch it. Do not try this at home.
The airbag's rigged for remote ignition.
Everybody ready?
Hey, we're ready.
All right. 3, 2, 1.
Yeah! Run!
Good shot.
The leading edge of this bag is coming at you about 500 miles an hour. It's deploying in about 1/4 of a millisecond, and then it deflates almost immediately.
These are the airbags that come out of the steering wheel. Now, what are the difference between these and the side ones that come out of the door?
Side airbags will be deploying about 4 times faster than these are.
Now that we gotta see.
3, 2, 1.
Whoa! Yes!
That cone's out of the park.
That was a good one.
That's fantastic.
Whoa! Yes!
Got any more of those?
Oh, I wish. That was cool.
How cool was that? I mean, those airbags must have shot the cones like 50 feet in the air.
Well, yeah, that's because technically they are explosives, which is ironic because they're meant to save your life, but they go off right in your face. But what happens is sensors on the car detect a crash, they ignite the airbag, which inflates a nylon fabric bag full of gas in a split second.
One thing's for sure, these firefighters have failed to hose down speculation about this myth.
These things are powerful. I mean, I could see how this whole thing might work.
All right, let's get going.
You can get some lock picks on the way home.
When a cowboy's hat takes a bullet in Hollywood, it takes flight like a startled bird. Does the science stack up, or are those hats flying in the face of physics? Our own Butch and Sundance aim to find out.
Are you ready?
And as we know, the MythBusters always feel right at home on the range. Feeling the need for speed, viewers have sent in 3 mythical ways to beat the camera cop.
Well, the first one is that you could beat the speed camera by driving so fast through it, it doesn't have time to take your picture.
Well, seems pretty straightforward. We get a speed camera, we get a car, and we just drive like heck.
Yeah, we do! Woo!
So, viewer myth number 1. You can beat the speed camera by driving so fast it can't see you? That'd be time to cue the souped-up supercar. But before we go high speed, Adam wants to test the theory in this car.
This is a perfect car for the test because while it may not be the fastest car on the block, it is definitely representative of a totally average American car. If this myth is at all true, it ought to be true for your average car.
Now, if you're worried about Adam and Jamie maxing out a very average car,
This is a pair of 5-point racing harnesses.
you're not alone.
Because we've got to drive it at such high speeds, the insurance company requires we put some safety measures into it, and that's what I'm about to do.
And so is Jamie. But how gas-axing a hole in the rear makes the car safer is anyone's guess.
Once the bumper goes back on it, it'll be fine. Nobody will know until they have a crash. But I won't tell them.
If this car can go half as fast as it's going in Adam's imagination,
Flip on the afterburner.
it should be able to beat the sound barrier, let alone a speed camera.
And I'm out!
You ready?
I'm totally ready. Let's go.
Let's go beat the speed camera.
Speed cameras work like sonar. They send out radar pulses. The time it takes for the pulse to come back to the sensor registers the speed of the vehicle. If it's over the limit, a signal's sent to the camera to take a photo. The myth is, if you can drive faster than the pulses, it won't detect your vehicle.
We got to beat the speed camera. And the only place where we can shoot this is our favorite tarmac at Alameda Naval Base. It's about 1.75 miles of perfectly flat road. It's absolutely ideal for our purposes.
2 men, almost 2 miles of runway, 1 myth, 1 car, and no speed limit. It's just another day in MythBusters paradise. At least until it's time to meet the speedster's arch enemy, the speed camera, and the mastermind behind it.
Hi, Adam. Good to meet you both.
Adam 2 Ton's cameras have been the bane of every leadfoot's life since 1987.
So basically what I'm looking at here is a radar unit attached to a camera, a storage device, and a processor.
Correct.
That's amazingly simple.
We try to make it as simple as possible.
Over the years, how many tickets have your systems issued?
I'd have to say millions.
With millions of tickets under its belt, will Jamie at full throttle be fast enough to get in under the radar? And just how fast can an average auto go?
This may look like a ray gun, but in fact it's a radar gun.
Just in case the speed camera doesn't clock the car, Adam's handheld will still get a reading.
I feel like a bullfighter. Come on! 40, 45, 50, 60, 60 miles an hour.
From a standing start, the average auto speed is, well, average. A longer run-up should show what it's got. But does the driver have the right stuff?
As usual, our biggest problem is not doing this particular stunt, but it's dealing with the insurance issues surrounding it. So we're gonna have a safety person in the car with me. We're gonna have a fire suit on and a helmet and the whole 9 yards, just in case we blow a tire and spin out and crash and burn and stuff like that.
Ah, Jamie, ever the optimist.
Based solely on my intuition and not any practical experience whatsoever, I estimate that we can get this car, or that Jamie can get this car, to just over 100 miles an hour. Is it enough to beat the speed camera? I suspect that it isn't, but I'm curious to find out.
Let's go fast.
Jamie's going to put the pedal to the metal while Adam tries to keep up in the safety car. The mustachioed maestro soon leaves Adam in his dust. But did he dust off the speed camera too? On this episode of MythBusters, it's the coolest show on record as the team heads to the high country to blast a blizzard of legends in their first snow special.
Awesome!
For starters, Jamie and Adam literally try to move a mountain as they attempt to summon up a thunderous avalanche with an alpine song, a bullwhip, and some rapid fire. Then, in a probing investigation, our trio finds out if there's any idea dumber than licking a frozen pole.
Hey, look, it's starting to rip the flesh.
And test if it's safer to drive on icy roads backwards.
Are you trying to get how many cones you can knock over?
Who are the MythBusters? Adam Savage.
Ow, 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 ow.
And Jamie Heineman.
It's almost too exciting.
Between them, more than 30 years of special effects experience.
Cue dramatic music.
Joining them, Carrie Byron, Grant Imahara,
Listen to that baby purr!
and Tori Belleci.
Paramedics are nowhere to be found.
They don't just tell the myths, they put them to the test. Gather around the hot tub, folks. It's going to be glacial.
So what's the myth?
Well, we are dressed for cold weather, and that's good because we're going to test whether or not you can start an avalanche by yodeling. So it's time to get those vocal cords ready.
You think I can yodel?
I know you can.
You think I'm gonna yodel?
No, I don't.
This alpine myth is as old as the hills. Can this beloved form of melodious mountain song set off a mighty avalanche? The idea isn't as nonsensical as it sounds. In previous audio experiments, the guys proved that sound waves from the human voice are powerful enough to shatter glass and even extinguish a flame. Now, using the same notion in this ultimate auditory myth, we're going to try to bring a mountain to its knees.
You know, if we're doing myths on avalanches, we need to go to the mountains.
I think you're right. I think we will. But first, why don't we try some scale experiments here in the shop? See what we can learn about them before we go.
Sure, why not?
Welcome back. The myth we're testing is if you're driving alongside a big rig when its tire blows, can that exploding tire kill you or specifically behead you? So, this is our big rig suspended in midair by our 30,000-pound forklift. We are going to lower this down onto our dynamometer. I know it looks like a pickup truck, but in fact it's a dynamometer. It'll spin up to speed. Spinning this wheel in the correct direction, we are going to make this tire fail by hell or high water, and that failing tire hopefully will knock Buster's head right off his body.
The reason we're using a motorcycle here is because this is a worst case scenario. Obviously on a motorcycle you're a lot more exposed. And so if a big tire like this goes off, while we could have put a car there, we figured this is the nastiest thing we can do with this particular experiment.
Things are only going to get nastier for Buster, because to blow the tire, Adam and Jamie are going with the direct approach. That's the shotgun.
We're using a standard 12-gauge shotgun with a deer slug in it. The deer slug is actually one of the heavier bullets that is available in any kind of normal civilian weapon. It'll penetrate the tire, and the big question here is whether the air inside the tire is enough to actually make it rip or do something violent other than hiss.
And what we're hoping, if everything goes really well, what'll happen is that slug will enter the tire right about here and compromise the radial. That's the steel wires that run around the perimeter of the tire. Once that radial gets compromised, if the gods are shining on us, this thing will open up like a zipper and fail in a magnificent fashion, slicing Buster's head right off.
That's the theory, but in case the impact is not enough to sever Buster's head, the team has an injury monitoring backup.
Our crash test dummy has shock watch stickers, so by looking at which one of these gets tripped, both on his head and on his torso, we'll be able to see what kind of damage he sustains during this tire accident.
With the dynamometer spinning, it's time for the magic bullet.
Joe!
Of course, this isn't a typical way for a truck tire to blow, but this should result in the catastrophic failure that this myth needs.
Okay, this is tire blowout, shotgun shell, revving the engine.
While Adam revs the target tire up to highway speeds, Jamie rides shotgun.
I'm good whenever we're clear elsewhere.
He must hit the tire, pump to standard truck pressure of 115 psi, sidewall center.
That's a hit, man. Nicely done. I heard it go up.
Yep.
But that was not the catastrophic failure we wanted.
Jamie was right on the money, hitting the tire dead on, but there sure was no explosion.
That's a neat hole. It's right there.
That's the hole?
Well, that ought to tell us something. I mean, that bullet's that big around. You know, they don't get any bigger than that, and it hit it clean right in the sidewall. It had to hit some of those cables. That was full pressure. It was a perfect hit, so.
The high speed shows the moment of impact as the slug pierces the tire. But Buster's white-knuckle ride is unaffected. To get a tire explosion, they're going to need a plan B.
We have to come up with a new plan, because what we're doing isn't working. These tires are super crazy, incredibly resilient.
Supposing you're silly enough to tailgate a truck, would this dangerous stunt really improve your gas mileage? Tori, Grant, and Carrie's wind tunnel tests have given this myth the thumbs up, in theory.
That is so much more than I expected.
But what about in practice? Time to go full scale.
We should drive at different distances behind the truck. We'll start at 100 feet and move our way up to 2 feet and see if we save fuel as we get closer to the truck.
2 feet seems really dangerous. Who's gonna drive?
I think Grant should do it, because he just had his middle name legally changed to Danger.
Grant Dangery Mahara. I like the sound of that.
The MythBusters also like the look of the impressive beast they've lined up for their full-scale test. at the Portland, Oregon headquarters of one of America's leading rig makers, Freightliner.
We've got this new Cascadia Freightliner here. It took 2,500 hours to shape the aerodynamics of this truck to make it the most fuel-efficient truck in the world. It's a brand new truck, and we're anxious to get it out on the track again and help you with that myth.
Test engineer Matt Mark Stoller reckons drafting is suicidal, especially considering how many blind spots are on a big rig. But he's agreed to help out under controlled conditions.
All right, you guys, get ready for this one. Crocodile myth.
Is it that they live in the sewers?
No.
Is it the crocodiles have tears?
No. This one is, if you're getting chased by a crocodile, you can easily escape it by running in a zigzag pattern, because they cannot turn corners.
In the water, the crocodile is a lightning-quick ambush predator. In that explosive split second when they strike, crocodile lunges have been clocked at around 30 miles an hour. Lunging is one thing, running is another. According to the myth, if you're being chased by a crocodile, all you have to do is run in a zigzag, because their long bodies and short legs cannot make sharp turns.
All right, you guys, this one seems a little dangerous. How do you think we should test it?
Let's use Buster first. We'll build a rig that pulls him in a straight line, and then one that pulls him in a zigzag.
Well, let's try to make this a little interesting instead of just sticking a stake to Buster's butt. Maybe we can make a pair of meat legs.
How do you make meat legs?
Don't ask me.
Guess that'll be your job. We'll build the rig.
The plan is to dangle a dummy from a remote-control trolley, which moves from side to side. The trolley, in turn, will be suspended from a steel track. As the trolley is pulled along the track, those juicy meat legs will zigzag. Then they'll take the rig to a croc farm and see if they can make some reptiles run. But this time, believe it or not, Buster's off the hook.
The rig that we're gonna have to put up is going to be suspended. Therefore, my Buster needs to be really, really lightweight. I'm gonna make him entirely out of foam for a torso, and then I might have a little surprise for his legs.
Soon, a new foam Buster is rising like a cake in an oven.
As you can see, he's very light, and it's not gonna put a whole lot of strain on the rig.
This new lightweight Buster hasn't got a leg to stand on, but Carrie has a pair of meat legs all mapped out.
What are these?
They're fishnet stockings.
He'll be wearing fishnet stockings.
Give me all your cash!
And they'll be stuffed with quail. But these are not like any frozen bird you might find in your supermarket.
See,
Oh my God!
I can't do this.
They got feathers on them still.
I can't do this.
You know what? They're not even gutted.
It's a quail sickle.
Put it down! Put it down! No, seriously.
I've never
You are
juggled dead quails
you are
before.
So messed up. Put these down, go back to working whatever you're working on, because I have a really busy day of putting dead birds in sexy lingerie.
Now, there's a sentence you don't hear every day. And here's another. Carrie has to choose the lingerie least likely to come apart while being chewed.
You've got nylon, you got spandex, you got cotton, and I need to test and see which one of these are going to be the best for the crocodiles to be able to hold on to.
With the different stocking stuffed, Carrie takes a scalpel and makes like a crocodile tooth.
I think I'm going with the 100% cotton fishnet stockings.
Adam and Jamie are trying to get a handle on the Hindenburg blaze.
Wow!
Was the airship's metallic paint to blame? The paint on this panel matches the one on the doomed airship. It contains aluminum and iron oxide, two compounds that combine to create explosive thermite. Will they get a reaction? Adam puts flame to the frame.
Go.
No thermite reaction, no intense heat. In fact, it takes 5.5 minutes for the panel to be consumed. That's almost twice as long as the aluminum-coated cotton.
It's almost identical to the cloth by itself.
Wow.
Hang on, guys. Don't write off this myth yet. That was one little panel. The Hindenburg was covered in thousands of square feet of material. Could there be a better boom on a bigger scale?
I mean, maybe there's some crazy amount that could yield an energetic reaction, but it's not this amount.
Obviously, the Hindenburg's designers didn't set out to coat their creation in rocket fuel. Those who pan the paint theory say the aluminum and iron oxide couldn't have formed thermite because the compounds weren't mixed that way. The recipe was completely different. So that's got the MythBusters curious. What would happen if you did paint pure thermite on the skin?
It's more like a paste than a paint, but I think we can smear it on.
Next up,
Megadon.